don't play. You absolutely don't need to play a preseason game in Atlanta. But she chose to do that, and obviously that was her choice. Um, the team kind of pushed her out there, but I still think that was too much of a risk. And then obviously the groin injuries happened and the ankle injury that the Fever tried to make a secret. It was like, I think kind of everything. It was a mixture of everything with like when it comes to
Caitlin Clark made notable comments at the Pro-Am explaining that full health has finally returned. The previous season was difficult, especially because injuries followed her from the start. From the opening minutes of the year, her movement never looked normal. Even in the preseason showing against Iowa, the pace seemed off, as if she was operating at half speed. After that, she still appeared in a preseason matchup versus Atlanta, a game that was unnecessary from a physical risk standpoint but was still played after internal encouragement.
like when it comes to like Caitlin Clark, and I don't think the Fever handled it well, as we've seen by them hiring like an entire new health staff. But the fact Caitlin Clark feels like she's 100%, and you could see it with the golf that it's like you can see Caitlin Clark was herself again, joking around, messing about, um, and that's a positive. Like that's just a positive sign. That's a massively positive sign to see your star player being kind of themselves again.
That choice came before the groin issues, followed by the ankle problem the Fever attempted to keep quiet. Altogether, the situation became a mix of rushed decisions and physical setbacks. The organization's recent overhaul of its entire health and performance department shows that the handling of the situation was far from ideal. Now, with her confirming that the body feels fully right again, recent public appearances show the difference clearly. Her time at the golf event displayed comfort, humor, and overall ease, which is a strong indicator that her normal confidence has returned.
To see your star player being kind of themselves again. And like, look, when it comes to Caitlin Clark, signed a CBA, Neka Wnba. Like, Neka got her bag money from Saudi Project B and then a conflict of interest. I watched her Rachel the Media video, and I had said it before plenty of times. The amount of involvement from the Saudis is tiny. It's tech bros. And by the way, those tech bros have as much money as, like...
Seeing a franchise player acting freely again is considered a major positive. Attention has also shifted toward her new CBA arrangement and the Project B involvement. Discussion around the financial backing often includes Saudi references, but available information points towards something very different. Reports describe the actual funding as coming mostly from tech investors, whose resources, while not at the level of a sovereign fund, are still large enough for them to casually risk massive sums. These groups view women's sports as a developing market with rapid valuation growth, similar to early-stage technology waves.
And by the way, those tech bros have as much money as, like, they don't have as much money as the Saudis, but like the tech bros can afford to lose $1 billion. Like, a collection of tech bros can afford to risk $1 billion because it's all just like, it's all bet gambling on women's sports being the next fucking AI. That's what it is. Like, I've heard it being compared to the new AI or crypto. Like, they think that it's like, you know, it's too expensive to get into any of these men's sports leagues. So they're trying to think that it's something.
Entry into men's leagues is extremely expensive, so these investors are targeting the women's space instead, treating it like the next major growth sector. The Saudi-linked event company is believed to be handling organizational aspects, but not supplying the primary capital. Even if outside funding were present, the practical effect would be unchanged. The central point is that tech industry figures, known both for wealth and high-risk behavior, are driving the financial push behind the project.
It's something they're looking at the women's sports leagues and looking at the valuations of teams 10xing in 4 years, and they're like, okay, we need to get in on this. That is where the Project B money's coming from. It's very, like, I think as far as we're aware, it's being ran by a company. It's ran by an event company that's ran by the Saudis. Like, I don't think there's any of the real money's coming from there. And even if it was, who cares at the end of the day? Who cares? But as far as we're aware, it's not. It's coming from tech.
Tech investors involved in these projects are known for extremely bold financial risks. The situation around the new CBA remains uncertain, and there is still open debate about how soon it will be finalized. Under the current structure, participation in the Big Three and similar events would again be allowed once the agreement is completed. Discussion online has also focused on accounts generating outrage content despite having modest followings, yet those accounts often receive heavy interaction regardless of size.
We're aware it's not. It's coming from tech bros, who are some of the richest, some of the smartest and dumbest with their money people ever. Like, they are, most of these tech bros are severe risk takers. Are absolutely severe risk takers. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, where's the CBA? She can play with her big three again.
Concerns continue about delays in the CBA process, raising speculation that the Players Association could stall decisions for reasons unrelated to league stability. Observers often point out that unusual choices from the union are never impossible, even when ideas sound unreasonable at first. Because of this, any scenario, no matter how unlikely, tends to be treated as something that cannot be fully ruled out. There is growing hope that next season will showcase Caitlin Clark in full health.
That Twitter page. Imagine only having 43,000 Twitter followers, the amount of rage baiting. That being said, they get more engagement than I do with 130,000, but fair enough. I swear WNBA and the WNBPA need to sign that CBA soon. Like, I mean this when I say this. I genuinely think that they could fucking not sign the CBA out of spite for Caitlin Clark. Like, I genuinely would nothing. I would put nothing.
Recent public events suggested better spirits and ease, which is a strong indicator of a positive recovery. A healthy year would greatly shape the league's outlook, especially because canceling a season would be widely viewed as disastrous. Some argue that a player lockout is still technically possible, although many misunderstand the limits of that leverage. Alternative leagues may exist, but they do not hold the same pull.
Nothing. I would put nothing past. I would put nothing past the WNBPA. Genuinely. Like, and no matter how ridiculous something sounds, you can't guarantee the WNBPA wouldn't do it. Imagine the most ridiculous sounding thing ever, and then think, would anyone do that? And if your answer is no, then go in with the question of, really? Really, maybe the WNBPA might.
Very few fans dream about watching Unrivaled or choose Project B as a destination. Even with high payouts, most prospects are expected to walk away from earlier NIL agreements if a larger deal is offered, especially top college names receiving major interest. Large payments from college programs also show how easily young athletes shift toward bigger opportunities. The overall picture remains unpredictable, but Caitlin Clark returning with full strength would immediately change the atmosphere around the league.
My gut feeling would be more than the 5 to 10% he's rumored to have with the Raiders, right? Because you're talking about one franchise being valued at, I don't know, maybe 300 or 400 million, maybe 500 million, and then another one valued at probably $7 billion with a B. And that would be the Raiders. Now, of course, the WNBA is staring down a potential work stoppage, a lockout.
Her impact is tied to performance. Popularity grows when she is active and declines when injuries remove her from the spotlight. A gap of several seasons without her on the court would erase much of the momentum built over the past 2 years, and the numbers already dipped from 2024 to 2025 due to extended time spent hurt. If the league enters a lockout during this fragile period, attendance and interest would sharply fall. Sellout runs for teams like the Fever and others could drop back to a few thousand people per game because the current surge depends on timing and visibility.
Of course, the WNBA is staring down a potential work stoppage, a lockout, all right, and or strike, depending on which side decides to lead it. It will determine the terminology there. But Becky Hammon is an employee of the Aces, and I was sort of surprised that she said this because Kathy Engelbert works for the owners. Okay, works for the NBA, works for Adam Silver, works on behalf of the owners, negotiating with.
With no new generational star appearing in the upcoming draft, and top prospects projected much lower compared to last year's class, the league cannot afford to lose its main attraction. The encouraging sign, however, is that Caitlin Clark appears healthy again, and that alone shapes expectations for the next year. A recent set of remarks from Becky Hammon drew attention mainly because of her position within the Las Vegas Aces organization. Hammon coaches the Aces, a team controlled by Raiders owner Mark Davis, whose father was Al Davis.
With the players. Well, Becky Hammon works for an owner, Mark Davis. But Becky Hammon is coming out and saying, in her opinion, she thinks Kathy Engelbert has to be gone. Has to be gone. And I'm like, wow. Now, maybe she's just being honest here, but I would think that
a smaller ownership stake in the Aces is also held by Tom Brady, who likewise has a minority share in the Raiders. The exact size of his share in the WNBA team is unknown, though it is likely larger than the estimated percentage he owns in the NFL franchise due to the massive difference in total valuations between the two leagues. The WNBA is currently facing the possibility of a labor stoppage, whether through a lockout initiated by ownership or a strike initiated by players, depending on which side makes the first move. In this context, Hammon's comments were unexpected because of her role within an ownership-run organization.
Adam Silver would probably want this to be said or worded differently. Probably, preferably not even talked about by Becky Hammon. That'd be my guess. Las Vegas Aces head coach, six-time WNBA All-Star Becky Hammon, said it may be time for a change in WNBA leadership. This is all while Adam Silver has been saying very publicly,
Kathy Engelbert serves as the league's commissioner and represents ownership interests during CBA discussions. Her position is tied directly to Adam Silver and the NBA, who oversee WNBA operations and expect league employees to support the leadership structure during negotiations. Despite this, Hammon stated that she believes the league may need new leadership at the top. The timing stood out given that Silver has repeatedly said he wants Engelbert to stay in place through the bargaining process.
Very publicly, that he wants Kathy to get through this CBA negotiations. Now, even myself, after the Nafisi Collier thing, I'm like, I don't know if she's going to be able to stay. But, the WNBA owners, the NBA owners, they may draw a line in the sand and be like, no, you're negotiating with Kathy. We're not letting you tell us who our leadership's going to be. Especially when the complaint is.
Many observers questioned whether such public statements from a head coach aligned with what ownership would prefer to hear, considering that a comment from within an organization carries significant weight. Some league followers have also wondered about Engelbert's long-term future after issues such as the Nafessa Collier situation, though owners may still decide to keep her in place to maintain stability during the negotiations. Owners across the WNBA and NBA are not expected to allow players or outside individuals to dictate who leads the league, especially when criticism has been linked to someone who is also involved in running another professional basketball league, raising concerns about conflicting interests. An interview with CNBC a month after securing a third championship with Las Vegas brought new remarks from Becky Hammon, where she described a strained dynamic between Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and many players as pressure for Engelbert's removal increases.
We're not letting you tell us who our leadership's going to be. Especially when the complaint is led by somebody that is co-owner of another professional basketball league, which is a conflict of interest. In an interview with CNBC 1 month after winning her third WNBA championship with the Aces, Becky Hammon discussed what she described as a, quote, rocky relationship between Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and many of the WNBA players as calls for Kathy Engelbert to step down build.
However, observers pointed out that these major increases in valuation are largely tied to broader momentum, similar to how NFL media deals grew regardless of who held the commissioner title. Much of the current growth is attributed to the surge in attention brought by Caitlin Clark, whose arrival significantly boosted interest across the league. The rise in revenue resembles situations in other sports where star athletes, rather than league executives, drive economic gains. The suggestion is that players like Clark elevated the WNBA's value rather than administrative decisions from leadership.
Engelbert to step down, build. Quote, I think they're probably going to look for a change in leadership. I just think it might be too fractured at this point. Now, by they, she's probably talking about the players. That doesn't mean they're going to get it. That doesn't mean they're going to get it. In late September, Minnesota Lynx star Nafisia Collier publicly criticized Engelbert's leadership, saying the commissioner showed a lack of empathy towards players on issues of pay and ongoing officiating problems. They talked to some league executives about this whole situation, and one of them said, you know what? Kathy Engelbert probably should be fired from her position. But the fact that Nafisia came after her makes them want to keep her.